Welcome back to the Fundamentals of Fitness. This is the podcast where we strip away the noise, the guilt, and the unrealistic expectations around the health and fitness industry, and we focus on what actually works in real life. I'm Alison, your no-nonsense performance coach and personal trainer. Today, we're going to finish this series with something that matters more than almost anything else we've covered: consistency. Because you can have the best program, the best nutrition plan, and the best intentions, but if you can't follow it consistently, then results just don't happen. And the problem is most people think consistency is about discipline or motivation or willpower, but it ain't. Consistency is a system. So whether you're out on a walk, driving to work, or just taking a bit of time for yourself, settle in and grab that cuppa. Let's get straight into it. Why does consistency fail? Most people assume they're inconsistent because they're not motivated enough, or they lack discipline, or they fall off track. But that's rarely the real issue. The real problem is that most fitness plans are built for ideal conditions: plenty of time, plenty of energy, low stress, perfect structure. But real life doesn't look like that. You get busy work weeks or poor sleep, unexpected events, and emotional stress. And when those things happen, the plan breaks. When stress increases, your system changes, your cortisol rises, recovery capacity drops, your decision-making becomes more reactive, and your emotional regulation becomes harder. This means that workouts feel harder and your motivation disappears, and then your structure does too. So inconsistency isn't random, it's predictable. Athletes can understand this too. They don't expect consistency to feel easy. They expect it to feel harder when life is demanding, so they don't rely on motivation. They rely on structure. A very common pattern I see is this: everything is going well, life gets busy, and then structure breaks and everything stops. But the real issue isn't the busy period, it's the lack of a system to handle it. Because consistency doesn't break when life gets busy. It breaks when the system cannot adapt. You are not inconsistent. Your system is. Fix the system and consistency improves. So let's talk about the consistency system. And consistency isn't about doing everything. It's about doing enough repeatedly. Rigid systems break. Flexible systems adapt. So instead of one version of your plan, you need multiple versions. Think of your system as 3 levels. Level 1 is your optimal week, your full training sessions, your structured nutrition, your clear routine. This is where maximum progress happens. But this will not happen every week. Level 2 is your reduced version, shorter sessions, simplified workouts, flexible structure. This is where most real progress actually happens. Level 3 is your minimum, your non-negotiable baseline. And this is simple. Do something. Maintain identity. That might be a 10-minute session, a short walk, or hitting a key habit. This is the difference between stopping and continuing. Athletes don't always train at full intensity. They reduce load, they adapt, and they maintain momentum. Because momentum matters more than perfection. And the goal is not maximum output. The goal is minimum drop-off. Because progress isn't lost in one bad week. It's lost when that week becomes a pattern. So let's talk about removing decision fatigue. And one of the biggest threats to consistency is decision making. Your brain is designed to conserve energy, and decisions require effort. So the more decisions you have to make, what to eat, when to train, what to do, the more likely you are to avoid them. When energy is low, decision quality drops, avoidance increases, and default behaviors take over. And default behaviors rarely align with your goals. So the solution is simple. Reduce decisions. Pre-plan your workouts. Repeat meals. Fix training times. Less thinking, more doing. Athletes rely on this kind of behavior because under pressure, decision-making becomes unreliable. So they remove it. They rely on routine. And over time, that routine becomes automatic. You don't rise to the level of your intentions. You fall to the level of your systems. So let's talk identity and long-term consistency. So this is where consistency becomes permanent. Consistency is not just behavior, it is your identity. Every time you repeat an action, you reinforce who you are. If you train consistently, you become someone who trains. If you stop and start, you reinforce that pattern. Identity is built through repetition. At a neurological level, your brain strengthens pathways that are used regularly. So consistency is not just physical, it's neurological. The biggest shift I see is this: from I'm trying to get fit to I train. That shift removes the negotiation because identity doesn't ask for permission. Athletes don't rely on how they feel, they rely on who they are. And that identity is built through consistent action. And this is where everything comes together. Energy, recovery, training, emotional regulation, all of it supports consistency, and consistency drives your results. You see, consistency is not about being perfect. It's about being structured. It's about having a system that works when you're motivated, when you're tired, when you're busy, and when life is just unpredictable. Because those are the moments that define your progress, not just the easy ones, the difficult ones. And when your system can handle those moments, consistency stops feeling fragile. It becomes reliable, predictable, and eventually inevitable. And if this episode has helped you understand how to stay consistent when life gets busy, share it with someone who feels like they're constantly starting over. Because consistency isn't about discipline, it's about structure. And if you've been listening through this series, you now have the fundamentals. So the next step is applying them. Until then, train with structure, recover with intention, and build something that lasts. I'll see you in the next one.